welcome back to the channel. It's your favorite realtor, Dr. Yeti, and I am back with yet another video. Today we're reacting to another minority mindset video. It's called Don't Buy a House Until You See This. Let's get to it.
Explain what opportunity cost is and how it's impacted if you buy a house.
Sure. If you have, let's make the numbers very simple. You want to buy a $100,000 home, and let's say the banks require a 20% down payment, $20,000. You could do a few things. Number one, you can take that $20,000 and go out and buy this house. And now that's how that money has been used. But if you use that money to buy the house, you lose the opportunity to take that $20,000 and say, use it to buy a rental property. You lose the opportunity to use that $20,000 to invest in the stock market. You lose the opportunity to take that $20,000 and maybe build a business. Now the question is, what is going to give you the best and most growth? Now, hopefully this house that you buy will go up in value. It's not guaranteed. We know that houses don't always go up in value, no matter what your banker says, no matter what your real estate agent says, because we saw what happened after the 2008 crash, where real estate prices were slashed in half. It was as much as 93% real estate values dropping in the state of Michigan, where I am. So we know real estate prices don't always go up. Stock prices don't always go up. Businesses don't always work. Everything has a risk. But now the question is, which risk do you want to take? And which risk do you want to take first? Are you in a situation now where you're ready to go out and buy a house? Or do you want to build your wealth first a little bit more? And that's the question that I want people to start thinking is, am I ready to buy a house? And then people say, well, if I go out and invest my money, the problem is housing prices keep going up. I'm chasing this housing market. It keeps getting more and more and more expensive. And you're 100% right. It's a risk. But there's also a risk the housing prices could fall.
I think one of the biases that makes people want to buy a house is that they're currently renting and they see that as just giving money away.
Everyone thinks
so they
that.
think, listen, I could spend this money on a mortgage and I'll own this thing one day, or I could spend this same $2,000, whatever it is, on rent, and I'm never going to own this thing.
Well, I'm here in Los Angeles right now. I had to stay in a hotel. That hotel payment is paying somebody's mortgage. It's paying somebody's college tuition. It's paying for somebody's stuff. When I go to a restaurant and I eat out, I'm paying for somebody's mortgage.
Right.
I'm paying for somebody's college tuition. I'm paying for somebody's bills.
Why not pay my own?
Because when you go out and you rent, that's what everybody says. I am making my landlord rich. Well, when you eat at a restaurant, you're making that restaurant owner rich.
Right.
When you go to a hotel, you're making the hotel owner rich. When I go and buy a mug, I'm making the mug owner rich. And the reality is, yeah, it's good for you to own a house. But are you ready to own a house? Can you afford to own a house? And what do you want to own first? I rent where I live right now. I am making my landlord rich today. I also rent where my office is. I am making my office landlord very rich because my office rent is very expensive. Do you feel bad for me? I hope not. And this is where we have to get over these money myths that many people keep selling you, that you can't build wealth if you rent where you live.
You know
can't
what? That's
build
valid. I'm not gonna lie. That's valid because in business, right, or in life, wealthy people also rent things too. And they're not thinking to themselves, oh, well, if I'm gonna be renting this building, I might as well buy it. You know what I'm saying? Like if I'm renting this office space, I might as well just buy it. It may be just more convenient for you to rent it, right? It may be more convenient. So like the idea of like, oh, I'm wasting my money like into this rent. It's valid. It's valid, but then you also have to think about everything else. Like, does it align with your life? Does it align with your lifestyle? Like, it's not just about building equity. Like, yes, that's a great thing. That's amazing. But there's a lot more to being a homeowner. You have to ask yourself, like, you have to look at the pros and the cons. Like, and if you guys haven't seen the video yet, I've made a whole video talking about renting versus owning, which is better. Sometimes it may be better for you to rent either right now or for indefinitely, right? Like you don't necessarily have to invest in a house. There's so many other forms of investment that you can invest in. A house, real estate is a great form of investment, but there's a lot that comes with real estate as well. You're not going to own the house forever if you have to pay taxes on it, right? I mean, not saying you, that's probably an opinion I probably should have kept to myself, but the point is, like, if you have taxes on a property, you're going to keep paying for that property forever. If you're in America, you're not going to own that land and say, okay, yeah, like I'm going to stop paying taxes now that I don't have to pay mortgage anymore. No, you're still going to have to pay that tax. So the question is, now that you know this, what are you going to do with the information? Right? Like, you don't have to invest in a house. You can invest in the stock market. You can invest in a business. You can invest in so many other things. It doesn't have to be a house. And I feel like a lot of people just feel like, because a house rent and mortgage is one of the most expensive bills that people have, that they're just like, okay, well, all this bills, all this money that's going into here, I need to find a house. And it's a very valid thought process, but you have to think about the bigger picture too. Just like he said, that $20,000 that you're going to put down on the house, you could have used that $20,000 to invest in S&P 500. That is a guaranteed growth right there. Right, the S&P 500 has grown, I want to say, over the year 11%, and it keeps making all-time highs every single year, every single month, honestly, sometimes, right? It's always making all-time highs. So maybe not every single month, but S&P 500 is always growing, right? This past week, we had an all-time high. So not just in S&P, but just finding other avenues to invest your money. It doesn't necessarily have to be in a house. So,
if you don't get a good degree, that's not the way that the system works. See, there's the traditional rules, and then there's the real financial education money rules. And again, I'm not saying it's bad to own a house, but it's bad to own a house you can't afford.
yeah.
How do you know if you can afford one?
Well, there's 3 parts to affording a house. You have to afford the down payment, you have to afford the monthly payment, and you have to afford the moving costs. I'm going to go start from the simplest one.
No, he's talking about moving costs. Let's talk about maintenance. Down payment, monthly payment, moving costs. Okay, you can hire your friends to help you move. I don't think, not hire, you can call your friends to help you move. I think it's the same thing as moving from an apartment to an apartment. Like, moving costs is not that expensive, at least if you have people that can help you. The main issue is not moving costs. The main issue is maintenance costs. Because like I said in my previous videos on renting versus owning, the cheapest thing you have to worry about when you're renting an apartment is your rent. The most expensive thing you have to worry about when you're renting is your rent. The most cheapest thing you have to worry about when you're buying a house is your monthly mortgage payments. Like, your monthly mortgage payment is the least of your worries. You got to worry about things breaking. You got to worry about cutting a lawn, maintaining your HVAC system, maintaining this, maintaining that, your plumbing, this, that. It's all your responsibilities. That, I want to say, is another thing that can affect your
Just the moving costs.
affordability.
Because many people don't factor this in. When you buy a house, you got to move in. And I'm not talking about the closing costs. You might have to hire movers, which are expensive. You might have to upgrade your furniture, which is expensive.
No, you don't.
You might have to upgrade the house, which is expensive.
You don't.
Factor that in.
No.
Then I want to talk
Factor
about
up-
your down payment.
No, that's not
People don't
valid.
like when I say this, but I don't say what I say to make friends. I say what I say to help people be better with money. If you want to afford the house, you have to have at least a 20% down payment. That way you actually
People don't want to hear that. I'm not going to lie to you. People don't want to hear it. You don't have to put down 20%, but I say this, maybe not 20%, but I will say this, you should have enough money to buy the house and not, like, when you get to closing table, not be worried. Like, you need to have 3% for closing costs, 3% for down payment. You need to have emergency funds. You need to have everything. Now, he's saying 20%, most likely to avoid mortgage insurance. I'm saying that you need to have as much money as you can, more than the closing costs and the down payment, so that you can be sure that you have ample amount of money to fix things when it breaks. I told you guys before that when I purchased my home, within a few months, I had to pay for a major plumbing issue. Major, not minor, major, like that cost thousands of dollars to fix it.
have some equity, some skin in the game. That way you can actually afford the house. The third part is you have to afford the monthly payments. Now, Every bank is going to have a different rule for you. Banks have like the 28% rule and these other rules. I have,
Sorry, just on that last point, why do people not like it when you say that?
because
Like,
it's very hard to pay a 20% down payment. Housing is expensive. You want to buy a $500,000 house? You have to have $100,000 as a minimum for your down payment.
Okay.
And that's extra cash.
Great.
Now, if we talk about the monthly costs, the simple way that I like to follow it is you have to have a system for yourself. You have to know how much money you are allowed to spend, how much money you need to be investing, and how much money you have to be saving every single month. Then just factor it in. So the way I like to look at it, a simple rule of thumb is something like a 75, 15, 10 plan, which says for every dollar that you earn from here on out, 75 cents is the maximum that you can spend. 15 cents is the minimum that you invest. 10 cents is the minimum that you save.
Okay, so 10% basically is what he has to say. 10% to savings, 15% into what you want. Well, let me listen to it.
Cents is the maximum that you can spend. 15 cents
So 75% is the maximum you can spend.
is the minimum that you invest.
Okay, so invest a minimum of 15%, save a minimum of 10%, and spending a maximum of 75%. Interesting, because I have mine, which is 50% maximum of, and this is based on budgeting, and you can use his to whatever you want to do. You just have your own number that works for you. A maximum of 50% goes towards the things that you need, which includes your housing and of your income. And I say your net income, not your gross income. Maximum of 50% on the things that you need. So 50% on your housing, your bills. So if you have electric bills, your car note, all that stuff, those are things that you need, right? Then there is 30% on the things that you want, right? So there are things that you want, like, you know, maybe you want to go to the movies or whatever the case is, like things that you want goes 30%. That's a maximum of 30%. Then the last 20% goes towards your savings, right? It goes towards your debt payoff, right? And then if you have any money left over from the 50% and money left over from the 30%, then you move all that money into your savings, right? So it's similar to his in terms of like allocating your funds somewhere, but his numbers are different. Like maximum, that's like his number is a lot more lenient. Maximum 75% on spending period. And I'm guessing he's including the 50% and the 30% that I included, my needs and my wants. And then the last 10% or the last 20% for me is his 15% into investments and his, what's the other one? 10% into savings.
10 cents is the minimum that you save. Now, let's do the math. If you know that you make, let's call it $100,000 a year, that means the max you can spend out of the $100,000 is $75,000. So if out of that $75,000, you can afford your mortgage costs, you can afford your food, you can afford your vacations and lifestyle, then sure, you can afford it. But if you can't afford that, then you can't afford that mortgage.
Yeah.
And the reason why I like to go by this rule is because some people are going to say, I can live in a small house, I just want an expensive car and some nice vacations. Other people are going to say, I want a beautiful home. I don't care about the car and vacations. So now you can factor it all in there. How much can you afford out of that 75% of what you make?
Yeah.
Do you think people even know how much money they spend?
No.
Oh,
I was thinking, I wonder how many people.
that's why I started budgeting, y'all. That's a valid question. I did not know how much I was spending. I was spending ridiculously. And I recently started budgeting. And I just was just like, every time I spend something, I keep in mind, like, okay, like this is not in your budget. Like, stop spending. Especially this is, you don't need this. Do you really need this thing right now? Like, let's be honest. If it's not within your budget, if it's going above your budget, then you don't need to buy this thing. But wait until next month, right? If it's within your budget, then buy it, right? But don't buy it. And maybe by next month comes, you may change your mind. Like, do I really need this? I don't really need this thing right now, right? So those are things that you have to ask yourself. Like, do I really need these things? So if you join my community, I literally just uploaded a budget tracker. Literally every single month, there's you track how much you spend. You track, your spending, and you see if you're meeting your goals, right? And then I would suggest you check it every single week. Like, okay, this week I spent this much money. Like, did I overspend this week? Like, those are things that you have to pay attention to.
People listening right now know over the last 6 months the exact figure that they spend every single month.
Most people
Most people don't.
statistically are living paycheck to paycheck
So they're basically spending everything.
or more.
Okay.
78% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck,
Credit card debt.
which means I make some money and I spend all of it or more. There's a joke that I like to make, which is in the traditional Indian culture, people make $1 to spend 20 cents. In the traditional American culture, people make $1 to spend $2 through the help of lines of credit, credit cards, and other forms of debt. And the reason why, I'm going to take it a step back. I don't think you wanted me to go this way. I'm going to go anywhere. Anyway, we live in what's called a credit-based economy, which means if you make $50,000 a year, you don't live off of $50,000 a year. At least most Americans don't. We live in what's called a credit-based economy, which means you have the ability to spend the $50,000 you earned plus debt.
This is valid.
Because as you make more money, as you have a good job, you become more creditworthy. And so as you show the bank, hey, I made $50,000, they'll give you credit cards, they'll give you lines of credit, they'll give you whatever types of debt that they can. That way now you can go out and spend $60,000, $70,000, $80,000, because that's what grows the economy. The more money you spend, the richer somebody else gets. If you're enjoying this video and want
That's
to take your
valid.
investing to the next
That's how banks make money. They make money from the interest rates. They make money from you not being able to afford to pay them back.
description below to get it. And so now when you live in this credit-based economy with no financial education, people spend. The economy grows, and most people have no idea what hit them.
Do you know what's really interesting is 2 days ago, I was having a conversation with one of my friends. It was actually, I did a podcast about finance recently, and in there I mentioned some of my friends, and then they messaged me on WhatsApp and we were having a chat in our group chat. And I, for the first time ever, one of them asked me to guess. We're very close friends. We talk about money, we talk about how much money we have, etc. They said, guess who has the most money in the group. So I went through and I did, I think this is this person's net worth of my 5 best friends, and I think this is how much cash they have. Now, one of my friends who is very, what's the word? I guess frugal, lives a very, very simple life. As I was going through, I go, do you know what? This friend is this like high-flying guy, lives in this amazing apartment. This person has all these wonderful things. This person's been successful in business. This person's successful in crypto. But you know what? I bet my mate, and I won't say his name, I bet he's richer than everyone else in that chat. All of my other friends in the chat. And so I did my little prediction and I said, I bet you've got X figure. And he replied and said, this is my current cash position. He was richer than everyone in the chat in terms of cash combined. Oh, wow. This guy lives so free. He lives in like a studio apartment. He never balls. He doesn't have like a fancy car, doesn't have fancy clothes. And he's richer than the entire lot of my friendship group. And I thought, God, there's something really important here in terms of, and it's so crazy if you know the context of what I'm saying, because I've got a friend in that chat who's built like a big business. I've got a friend, like everyone in that chat runs businesses, is successful, but they're living in different ways. And the one friend who runs the smallest business, who like probably has the least income, is the richest.
Wow.
And over the last couple of days, it's so funny. I was thinking about all the dinners I've bought this fucking guy, and I'm like, I didn't know you were a millionaire. Like, I would have been paid for everything.
But this is really, I mean, if we ignore your friends, it's very easy to look fake rich.
Yeah.
because everybody will give you a line of credit. If I want a Gucci purse and I can't afford the Gucci, guess what? I can buy now, pay later. I can open up a credit card and buy the Gucci and look like I'm rich.
Yeah.
When in reality, I'm just making Gucci rich. In fact, one of the richest people in the world, in 2023, he was the richest person in the world, is Bernard Arnault. He's the founder and CEO of LVM, or he's the founder and CEO of the company that owns Louis Vuitton. And why? Because millions of people pay him to look rich when in reality, he's the one that's getting rich. And we assume that when you make some more money, you got to start looking the part. And this is that mindset shift that we have to make. And, you know, a lot of people resonate who come from the Indian traditional families. They message me saying, Jaspreet, I became a doctor, or my wife and I are doctors. We make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. We make a great income, but we have no savings and no investments, and I don't know what to do. And the reason why is we have a Range Rover and a Benz. We have a nice
You know what
house.
scripture says? He who is faithful with little will be trusted with much. You don't have to be the wealthiest person to start saving. You don't have to be the wealthiest person to start budgeting and to start being, you know, a great steward of your finances. However, just know that, you know, there are situations where if you don't have the money right now and you're saying to yourself, oh, I can't save because I don't make enough income, that same sentiment is going to be there when you do make the income that you're aspiring to have. If you're not being faithful with what you have right now, how can you be trusted with much? Even when you do have much, you're still going to be experiencing the same thing if you don't make wiser habits now.
We go on the doctor vacations. We have to look the part, but we don't have any money left over at the end of our paychecks.
Crazy.
And it's a very
Hundreds of thousands of
easy
dollars
thing
a
to get
month.
caught up in.
A year, I
Because
mean.
when you make more money, you become more creditworthy. Banks will give you bigger
And more.
loans. When you make more money, you want to spend more money. And it's very easy. And you have to understand, how do you control that spending? And that's why if you follow something like 75, 15, 10, one of the simplest things you can do to start is just always, no matter what, whether you're making $10,000 a year or $10 million a year, you always put money aside to invest. You always put money aside to save, and you spend whatever's left.
My friend doesn't invest. The friend I'm talking about doesn't actually invest. He just doesn't spend. He just doesn't spend money. And he's just stacked up like $1 million in cash
At least I hope in a high yield
whilst
savings
earning
account.
less than everyone else of my 5 friends in that chat.
That's crazy.
And it didn't take a long time. Like it took him 4 years or something, 4 or 5 years of just running this small business with a couple of people. When I say a small business, I mean a small business, like a business of maybe 4 or 5 employees.
Wow.
And he's built up $1 million in cash for himself because he just doesn't spend money. And he doesn't have like an ego,
Imagine
doesn't
that.
care if people.
Imagine just saving, not even investing. That's amazing. Now imagine if he included investing as well. That would be
People
amazing.
think of him. Yet my other friends who are earning maybe 5 times more a month have 5 times less cash than him. It's like it was so inspiring. It was honestly so inspiring because it says something about the importance of saving.
Yeah.
But who the hell wants to save? If I titled this podcast today,
Doesn't take much, though.
Something about saving.
Jaspreet literally said only 10%. Jaspreet said save 10%, right? And the others you spend and you invest. That's all it is.
No one's going to click.
It's not fun. Saving isn't exciting. Who wants to go out and save $2,000? Who wants to spend less money? We want to buy more nice things.
Yeah.
But unless you can control the spending, unless you know how to save, you will never build wealth.
Do you know for people that are in that paycheck to paycheck cycle, which I was in for many, many years of my life, where I'd get paid from my call center, I'd go and spend the money, and I'd pretty much spend all the money within the first couple of days of getting the paycheck, and I was just waiting the next 3 weeks for the next
wow.
paycheck. What advice would you give them about getting out of that cycle? Because you almost feel imprisoned by that cycle if you're
Absolutely.
in it.
Well, before I give the advice, I want to explain to that person what's happening, because you are the prime customer for our economic system. Banks love you because they can sell you payday loans, they can sell you credit cards, they can sell
Honestly,
you lines
hold
of credit.
on. Before I keep watching this, what does this have to do with buying a house? I realize how far. I mean, I'm gonna keep watching it because this is very informative. But I was hoping he would talk more about buying a house. But let's keep watching.
And they can keep you in debt for the rest of your life, which means you keep making the bank rich. Corporations love you because you're not gonna think twice when we show you this nice bag.
Man, listen, before you say anything, listen, y'all. I used to be the person that if somebody tells me that something costs more than what I initially intended, like this is my budget, this is how much I'm spending, nothing more, nothing less. I used to be the person that would be like, okay, yeah, like you told me this was $60 and you're telling me now that it's $90, that's fine, I'll pay you. Now I'm like, no, show me what's $90 because I was intending on spending only $60. What is that? Show me the itemized, whatever it is. Spending money to get my nails done every 2 weeks, and every time I would go I would get the same thing, but every time I would go the prices always kept changing, and I'm like, what is the real price of what I'm doing? I would never ask at the time, why are you charging me this? I would never ask that. I would just be like, okay, sure, whatever, because I didn't want to seem like I didn't have it. But who was that helping? Who was that helping? You're spending hundreds of dollars every month on getting your nails done or all these things, and you don't really know what you're paying for. They can charge you whatever, and you don't even know what you're paying for. So recently, I went to Aldi just today. And anyone that knows me knows I love Aldi down. Okay, I can buy a bunch of things for $50. I could buy a bunch of things for $60. I'm talking a huge load of things. And I went today, I had an intention of buying only a handful of things. And I'm at the checkout line. They talking about it's $90 at the register, $90 at Aldi. I told the guy, I said, listen, if I'm going to spend $90, it's probably not going to be here. I love y'all down, but $90, let's go through the receipt and take some things out. He took some things down, and I brought it down to $60 because my intention when I went to Aldi was $60. Recently, I went on my on social media. I was talking about the fact that the last time I went to Aldi, I spent like $70 something at Aldi. I wasn't expecting that. I was expecting like $50, but I was like, whatever it is, $70, at least it's better than the other grocery stores, right? It's still cheaper than other grocery stores. It's a lot more than I expected, but it's still cheaper than other grocery stores. And then to find out today that I'm $90 for a handful of things at Aldi, I said, no, please. And usually the old me would have been like, okay, fine, whatever. Like, I don't care. I was not only did I say it, I was loud with it. I didn't care who heard me. I said, I told the people behind me, I said, I'm so sorry, y'all, but I got to do what I got to do. I'm not spending $90 for a handful of things at Aldi. And so no offense, Aldi, I love y'all, but I think you guys are kind of getting a little too ahead of yourselves because TikTok is pushing y'all and promoting y'all. There are farmers market that are cheaper than y'all. I can go to a farmer's market right now and get more quality natural products. Let's be for real. I'm sorry, I went on my tangent, but I'm just saying, okay, I had to speak my mind. I had to speak my truth.
Nice vacation. You're going to want the stuff. And so we love selling you the stuff. The government loves you because you're going to pay the highest taxes.
Facts.
Employees pay the highest taxes. And so when you're in that situation, you are making everybody else rich at your expense. And so if you want to break out of this, the first thing you got to understand, you need to make yourself rich before you make everybody else rich.
Make yourself first.
Because when you're spending all your money, you are putting your money into their pockets. And you have to stop that. You got to keep that money for yourself. You're in a boat. Think of it this way. You're in a boat. And this boat has water just flowing in. And you are sinking. And you got to start by sealing the holes. You got to stop the water leaving. You got to stop the water coming in. You got to stop the bleeding. And that means you got to stop the spending. So if you are in what I call the financial danger zone, which is you don't have $2,000 saved up for an emergency, and you have credit card debt. If you are in that situation, you are in the financial danger zone, and you have to make drastic changes. That means right now, no more eating at restaurants, no more vacations, no more doing anything that doesn't put money in your pocket, and no more Netflix.
No.
And the reason why I say this isn't because you're going to save $15 a month. It's so you can save 2 hours of your time a day. The average American is watching more than 2 hours of television a day. And if you don't have $2,000 saved up, if you have credit card debt, you cannot afford those 2 hours a day being
Hey, chill. He said, you can't have fun. You ain't got no money. Why are you having fun? Why are you watching? I mean, it is valid though. What he's saying is actually very valid, but it's so funny to me.
wasted on TV. And that means right now, you have to go out and start using the time to learn, start using the time to work, and start using the time to make some extra dollars. So what do? Start selling stuff, stop spending money,
Selling stuff you own.
selling stuff you own. So if you have a TV that you're not using, sell it. You have a car that you can't afford, sell it. If you're living in a house that you can't afford, sell it. Downgrade, move smaller, and then work to earn more money.
I've got to say, the couple of things that I came to mind as you were saying that, and funnily enough, I put myself in the shoes of 18-year-old Stephen Bartlett when I was in that small apartment with 3 or 4 immigrants in Moss Side, Rushholme, and I was, my rent was nothing. My rent was £150 a month, which I could not afford and I could not pay, and I was intermittently working between call center jobs, and whatever money I got, I spent. And part of the reason I spent it, is because, like many people watching, especially men who sometimes feel the need because of the way society is, I was trying to get laid at the same time. And it's hard when you're a young man. And I say young men in particular because the stats do support the fact that there is an expectation that men pay. When you're a young man, it's particularly difficult to do all of these things, to cut back and also get laid. And what am I going to do? Defer getting laid for 10 years? When I say laid, I'm really saying meeting someone and falling in love and having a life. So what do if I'm living in a shoebox, which I was, I can't bring anyone back there. I can't take anyone for dinner. I can't take anyone to the movies. So what do?
And this is why every Indian parents tell their kids to become a doctor so their son can get married. It's the same concept. But here's the thing. You have to pick it hard. Either life's going to be hard now or it's going to be hard for the rest of your life. And you have to pick what's more important to you right now. And, if we talk about balance, if you want to have a balance.
I'm going to stop it here because we're already way past 30 minutes, but this was a very informative video. I will link this video so you can watch the rest of it in the description or maybe in the comments. I'm not sure yet, but yeah, y'all, let me know what you think about this. Like, the things that he's talking about, the housing, but also like in terms of saving and all these things, like, do you think you're able to do this? And I think everyone is able to do it. If you're keeping track of every single thing you're spending, like I used to make my community a paid community and it was only like $35 a month. And people were just not paying for it because I guess they don't realize, because they're like, in this economy, like, bro, you want to buy a house, you want to get as much education as possible. Then I realized so many people don't even know. They don't know what they don't know. They don't know that they need the information. So I'm like, okay, let me make it free. I made it free. But then I would go and scroll on TikTok and people are buying. I mean, they on TikTok are selling a package with nothing in it. And they're selling it for $15 and people are actually buying it. There are things that I see on TikTok that I'm like, why are people buying these things? Right? And they're not cheap either. Right? And there's a book for cats or something like that. And all that's written in it is meow, 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 meow. It's a thick book, not a thick, like a relatively, a decently sized book. But all the words in it is literally meow. Guess what? People are buying those books. So the question is, what are you prioritizing? Right? What do you do you really think that you need do you really need that book? Do you really need Netflix right now? Like Jaspreet said, like, do you really need to be spending on unnecessary things? Yes, it may save you a few bucks, but the main thing is your mindset, like having the mindset of, okay, like I have a goal to get to somewhere and I don't have the time to be spending all day doing things that are not productive for me. I need to learn, I need to grow, I need to be better. So anyway, y'all, let me know what you guys think in the comments. This is a different type of video. I didn't expect it to be, because I'm reacting for the first time. I've never seen a video before, but I'm very curious to know what you guys think about this and what your thoughts are about saving for a house. Do you think you are able to afford saving for a house? Are you living paycheck to paycheck? Do you not want it? I don't know. Whatever. What are your thoughts about this video? Let me know in the comments. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.